Good morning. Greetings in the name of our soon coming King Jesus Christ, King of kings, Lord of lords, King over heaven and earth, and King over all the generations. Also, King over all the nations. Did you realize the life and destiny of not only individuals but nations depend on Jesus? There will come a day, and I believe that day is approaching very fast. Jesus Christ will gather all the nations in front of him, and he will judge them based on their actions, and some he will bless and allow into his kingdom as the new citizens of his millennial kingdom. Some he will curse and cast them into the eternal fire. Friends, this is a very serious proclamation from the lips of Jesus Christ in the book of Matthew chapter 25. Often overlooked and often misunderstood, often misrepresented in the Western Christianity. Today, in this episode, I am going to unpack and share with you the very serious warning to the nations of the world from the lips of Jesus Christ. And as I share this, you might very well find that the nation in which you live might very well be actually having busy crossing or have already crossed the red line on this regard or in this regard. So let's just first go and look at what Jesus is saying in Matthew chapter 25. To be more specific, it is in Matthew chapter 25, starting from verse 31. Let me put it on the screen for you. All right, you should be seeing now on your screen. This is the parable of the sheep and goats. When the Son of Man comes in his glory and all the angels with him, he will sit on his glorious throne. All the nations will be gathered before him, and he will separate the people one from another as the shepherd separates the sheep from goats. He will place the sheep on his right hand and goats on his left hand. Now, firstly, I want to pause here before I go further and explain when will this happen. This is when Jesus Christ comes physically, visibly in his physical body on the Mount of Olives. In other words, on his actual physical return on the Mount of Olives. This is not the time of the rapture. Now I see in the comments of our videos, some people still struggle to distinguish the timing of the rapture and the timing of the second coming of Jesus Christ, physical second coming. These two are two separate events. The timing of the rapture is going to happen, according to the Bible, before the appearing of the Antichrist. First, the church must be taken out of the world. Only after that, the Antichrist will reveal himself and establish his one world government. And thereafter will begin the 7 years of tribulation. And also, in the Old Testament, that time period is referred to as the hour of trial, the hour of suffering for the Jewish nation. Now, at the end of those 7 years, when the Antichrist's army have encircled Jewish people and have already killed 2/3 of the Jewish people, and only 1/3 have survived and are busy facing this certain death, at that moment they will cry out to Yeshua HaMashiach, and he will descend from heaven with his angelic army onto the Mount of Olives. And he will defeat the Antichrist and his armies. He will redeem that remaining 1/3 of the Jews who have called unto him. And after that, he will gather all the nations of the world to judge them. And this is what we are reading here in Matthew chapter 25, verse 31. when he gathers all the nations of the world in front of him, he will begin to judge them based on their actions. Some he will reckon to be sheep, some he will reckon to be goat. Sheep he will put on his right hand side, this way, and the goat he will put on his left hand side. Let me keep reading and explain as we read. Verse 34. Then the king will say to those on his right, "Come, you are blessed by my Father. Inherit the kingdom prepared for you." Now, what kingdom is he referring to? He is referring to the millennial kingdom of Jesus Christ that Christ is about to now establish, and from there on he will rule for 1,000 years from Jerusalem. He will tell those sheep on his right hand side, "Come, enter the kingdom. This is prepared for you by my Father." For then verse 35, Jesus says, "For I was hungry, you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger, you took me in. I was naked and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison, you visited me." Then the righteous will answer him, "Lord, when did we see you hungry and feed you, or thirsty and gave you something to eat or drink? When did we see you a stranger and take you in, or naked and clothed you? When did we see you sick in prison and visited you?" Now, as you see here, the people are asking these questions rightly because they had never seen Jesus himself in their lives. So how can this be? Then Jesus will reply to them and say, verse 40, the king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for the one of the least of these brothers of mine, you did it for me." Now, here is the mystery, misunderstood detail of this passage. Verse 40. Here is the mystery and the misunderstood detail of this passage. That is when Jesus says, that is in verse 45. Jesus says, "Whatever you did for these little brothers of mine, the least of these brothers of mine." Who is he referring to? Jesus is referring to the Jewish nation. He is referring to the Jewish nation as his brethren, as his brother, as his family. I said it in this channel many a times, and some of the Christians in the Western world were upset with me because they could not comprehend or understand, or they did not want to understand. Jesus is not an American. He's not a European. He is not an African. Jesus is a Jew from a Jewish father, and his father in heaven is not Jew, but on earth, Joseph was a Jew. The woman who gave birth to him was a Jew. He was born in Israel. He grew up as a Jew. And this was no coincidence. It was God's incidence. It was according to God's plan. And Jesus was crucified as the King of the Jews on a Roman cross outside of Jerusalem. You see, he is a Jew. And the sooner we embrace this truth, the better it is for us as Christians. Many Western Christians, especially in Europe, struggle to comprehend this and struggle to accept this. Jesus is a Jew, and he will come back as the King of the Jews. He will come back to redeem the Jews. And he will hold the nations accountable on their treatment of Jews. He refers to the Jewish nation as his family, as his brethren. The church is the bride of Christ. Jews are his family. So now I must just silence this thing. We need to understand this, and we need to communicate this also to our people around us. But more than that, we need to live in the truth of this, in the reality of this truth. If you read further, Jesus Christ talks to the goats on his left-hand side. He tells them, "When I was hungry, you did not feed me. When I was in prison, you did not visit me. In fact, you mistreated these brethren of mine." You see, I heard many times people saying, no, Jesus is referring to us being kind to the poor people on the streets and etc. Doing charity work to the poor people is good, but that is not the focus of this parable. This parable has nothing to do with your charity work to the poor people. This parable has nothing to do with your neighbors who are necessarily just less fortunate than you. This parable is all about the Gentile believers' treatment of the Jewish nation. In fact, you don't even have to be a believer. This parable is all about the nation's treatment of the Jewish people. And one day, Jesus will judge each and every person, as well as each and every people group, ethnic group, each and every nation, on how they treated the Jewish people. If you have treated the Jewish people favorably, kindly, and generously, and graciously, you will be reckoned as a sheep nation or sheep people by Jesus, and you will be allowed into his millennial kingdom. But if you have been hostile to Jewish people, for whatever reason it may be, you will be reckoned by Jesus as a goat or a goat nation, and you will be cursed and condemned to the eternal fire by Jesus. Now, many times I heard Christians saying, but I am saved by the grace of God. True, you are saved by the grace of God from your sins. But as long as you remain hostile to Jewish people, you are risking this condemnation and damnation to the pit of hell because of hostility you may harbor in your heart towards the Jewish people. Whether you are a believer or not, this passage of Jesus applies to all people of all nations, whether they believe in Jesus or not. Even the people who don't believe in Jesus, if they are kind to the Jewish nation, they will be recognized by Jesus as sheep. And if they survive the 7-year tribulation, they then will be allowed to enter into the millennial kingdom and populate the millennial kingdom. But even if you call yourself Christian, and for whatever reason, when Jesus came to rapture his church and he didn't rapture you, maybe you are just lukewarm Christian or Christian just in name, but not really walking with Jesus. Because when Jesus comes for the rapture, he will rapture his bride. He will not rapture just about anybody who call himself Christian. The rapture of the church is actually an act of Jesus coming for his bride. When the rapture happens, there will be many people who will be left behind because they are maybe Christians, but they are not necessarily the bride of Christ. And those who are left behind, regardless of what is their religious alignment, if they are hostile to Israel, the Jewish nation, they will then be condemned as goats, and they will then be cursed, condemned to the pit of hell. But if they are friendly and kind to the Jewish nation, if they survive the 7-year tribulation, they will then be reckoned as sheep, and they will be ushered into the millennial kingdom. Why do I share this right now? Because where we live in South Africa, our country, our nation is more and more sliding into the category of goat nations. But it is true for pretty much most of the Europe and pretty much most of Western world today. There were many nations. There are a couple of examples I can give you. For example, Persia. Historically, Persia, today is called Iran, used to be a very friendly nation to the Jewish people. But since 1979, they became officially and almost exclusively hostile to Jewish nation. Germany was friendly to Jewish nations. When Hitler came in power, they crossed the line to the other side. Later on, they repented. But nations and even individuals, every one of us, both individually but also collectively, will be judged by the King of the Jews based on our treatment of the Jews. Let this be a sobering warning to everyone who is watching this video. May we, if we truly believe in the King of the Jews, may we not fail to bless his brethren the Jewish nation, and be kind to them, and pray for their salvation, and stretch the hand of olive branch, stretch the hand of help, stretch the hand of kindness to them at every opportunity we receive. May the Lord Jesus Christ, the King of the Jews, may He bless you, and may you be a blessing to the people of the King of the Jews. God bless you and goodbye.